Hello everyone and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. I'm delighted to be joined once again today by Ian Mallinson, UKISUG Board Director, and David Yawalkar, Head of Solution Management RISE with SAP, for the second part of our discussion around the cost of doing nothing, or as we like to think about it, the paths to the future with SAP and what you need to be thinking about at this moment in time. You've mentioned the kind of different roadmaps for the different versions. So let's kind of just dig into the idea of not moving, if you like, at this point, or for specifically for organisations that decide to stay on premise with S4 going forward. What are some of the costs or trade-offs that those customers face?
Mm-hmm. So for S4HANA specifically, this is where now the functional differentiation basically is the main difference between S4 on-prem and the private cloud. So when our board made the decision to not deliver AI into S4 on-prem, that's obviously a big one. That was also one that we got a lot of feedback from existing customers, and some of them obviously rightfully so, because a couple of years back when some customers made the choice for S4 on-prem, right, that was a right choice to do. And we also officially said, we are SAP, you have choice, S4 on-prem, private, public, whatever you look at. And some customers made that move. Now we make the differentiation, right?
David, just to that point, in my personal experience, I said we need to get moved to S4 to the board. We need to move to S4, and if we move to S4, we're future-proof till 2040, which was true at the time.
It was true at the time. Yeah. And SAP acknowledges the fact right now that especially S4 on-prem customers, if you were now to decide to move to S4 private, we need to commercially incentivize you for that move. So there is transformation incentives there where SAP is offsetting some of the project costs, because we know these customers have invested when it was totally fine to move there before the markets changed. But from a differentiation point of view, AI in terms of business AI, but also how you interact with the system with digital assistants is only cloud. Certain sustainability products are only available in the context of cloud solutions. Then we have what SAP is sometimes calling strategic cloud innovations. So certain innovations that SAP makes the decision to only deliver in the cloud, right? There's now central finance where SAP has also decided central finance you can from now on only get into the context with the cloud, not with on-prem anymore. That was something that was available before in the context of on-prem. So there are quite some, and I see this diverging more and more as the years go by, these two product versions, as we are. So it's probably most interesting for customers just to go on the Roadmap Explorer. There's even a drop-down that says cloud-only innovations. So you'll get a nice overview on what's really cloud-only, and then you can check, is that interesting for me? Is that something that's really something I'm missing out on, right? And you can check that from release to release. But we are making it transparent on what's cloud-only. Yeah. But AI, sustainability are two of the big ones there.
Yeah, we'll probably come back to that some more about those things that are available in the cloud products and not in the on-prem version. But even though you can sometimes argue the on-premise route, I have to be realistic. One of the costs of staying on-prem is you've got to look after the infrastructure. And if you move to what I would call RISE, or we now call Private Cloud Edition, I think, David. That problem, that challenge goes away. I think there's still a bit of basis activity that still needs to be done by the customer, but some of that also moves too. And as as everybody's IT architecture changes and becomes more cloud focused, member organizations will have less and less internal capability to manage that stuff. So, that is a benefit of moving to the cloud.
And are you on a hyperscaler, or are you in your own data center?
In that situation, it was in our own data center, and we had the skills to manage that. But that won't be the case everywhere, and it won't be the case over time. So that's a clear positive argument for the move.
So on that, you mentioned there, Ian, a number of areas that an on-prem customer needs to manage, such as hardware, basis tasks, etc. So, David, beyond that, what are the implications of moving to the cloud, if you like, for customers in terms of security, maintenance, and innovation?
Mm-hmm. So from a security and compliance point of view, obviously this is one of our key value differentiators as SAP is investing. Probably most of our investments go into the security and compliance topic because we don't want to read in the news that one of our big customers had a security incident and had their systems down and couldn't deliver cars or whatnot, right? So that's a big investment area where we also always comply against the latest standards in terms of compliance and security. So we do a lot of the groundwork there. In terms of operations, we do all the technical operations to keep the system up and running, right? We need handshake points sometimes in the private cloud much more than in the public cloud. In the private cloud, the customer has more flexibility and control, which comes with a bit more effort in supporting us in certain tasks or even allowing us to perform certain tasks. I think from my point of view, innovations are a bit more accessible as customers at least free up some of the time where they, in an on-prem setup, keep their system up and running, keep their system secure. They hand that off to a cloud provider, right? I think that can help in freeing up some time for investing into latest technologies or doing other tasks, right? We are promoting that customers should more focus on these value-driven tasks like getting their system agile, getting their system future-proof, being able to upgrade more frequently instead of keeping the lights on and the system up and running, right? That should be something that should be a given and can be handed off, right? So that's our idea here. Yeah.
Thank you. And on the functionality, you've already mentioned a couple of things, and obviously just discussed there central finance. Future of central finance is going to be cloud only. So as SAP increasingly focuses on the cloud products, is there any other functionality or benefits that on-prem customers will start to miss out on? You've already mentioned the sustainability element from the Green Ledger, and obviously you just mentioned their central finance.
Yeah. So on top of the innovations where we are differentiating, you can see that we are differentiating in this accountability scope where we've extended now in the private cloud S4 setup where we don't do it in S4 on-prem, right? This is where customers are missing out. In the private cloud, we also have a concept that we call SAP Safekeeper. So if in the private cloud an S4HANA customer is running out of mainstream maintenance, they still have the chance to get SAP Safekeeper from SAP, where we are helping them to upgrade to the new release. And during that upgrade, even though their system is out of mainstream maintenance, we're still providing them legal changes. We're still providing them security. That concept's also not available in S4 on-prem. So Safekeeper is a pure private cloud topic. So you'll see a lot of the times where SAP does more hand-holding and gives more support is when the systems are with us and managed by us, right? And then obviously the difference in functionality on top of that. Yeah.
And you said it before, David, and I can see it, that this is going to become increasingly the case. There's going to be divergence between the on-prem version and the version that you're hosting. Another example, so to be clear, for hopefully everybody gets this, but if it's in my previous experience, we've got on-prem S4, but we've got many S4 cloud products like SuccessFactors. So dual in SuccessFactors will work.
Yes, for sure.
Because that's a cloud product. But the fact that we're running S4 on-prem means that we wouldn't be able to have dual operating within S4. So that it's not dual isn't available to those that have got their S4 system on premise, but it would only be available in SAP cloud products. I guess that's one thing. But another thing that popped up in my consciousness really through the charter work is business data cloud. So, it's a big launch, very interesting, very exciting. But one of the selling points is that those pre-canned data products that are already established and set up, more or less ready to go. That only exists if you're Cloud S4 customer, I think.
So we're calling these inside apps, right? So S4HANA receives pre-built data. You're actually well on top of these things, Ian. So very cool. So SAP is delivering data products that we are making available with S4HANA inside apps. And these inside apps that are powered by Business Data Cloud, they are only released and delivered with predefined data products in S4 Private. Yeah, in this case, yeah. So that's another differentiation right there. That's correct.
Which, if I was in my old role, I'd be very frustrated about. Because, one of the real strengths of an SAP system is the structured data that's contained within it, end to end. That's a real game changer. And so of course, Business Data Cloud brings that value to life, but the pre-canned is only in the cloud. Yep.
So while we're on that topic of data and the Business Data Cloud, and tell me if I'm stepping outside the bounds of our conversation here, please. But obviously there's been an announcement this week in the collaboration with Snowflake and bringing the cloud AI operations and ability of Snowflake into SAP Business Data Cloud. And obviously there was Databricks earlier this year. So if I'm on S4 on-prem, and you were talking there about these inside apps, does that incorporate the Snowflake and the Databricks collaboration, or is that something completely separate that if I'm on S4 on-prem, I'll be able to access it?
So generally, Business Data Cloud in itself, you can also work in the context of S4HANA on-prem, right? So not all capabilities of Snowflake or Databricks, which we're also using, are limited to S4 on-prem customers. It's just that these pre-canned, pre-built data products are not available in S4 on-prem, right? But we do see obviously also large S4 on-prem customers using Business Data Cloud, as well as Business Data Cloud is a separate public cloud offering, right? Which you can also use and integrate with an S4 on-prem system. Even the BW for HANA private edition went into Business Data Cloud as one part, right? So we can still see some of these customers are leveraging that, but the predefined business data inside apps are not available.
Okay. And Ian, you mentioned your potential frustration there, stepping back into your old role, if you like. And from our conversation, David, I can only see that the gap in functionality between S4 on-prem and cloud editions are going to widen in time.
Yeah. And some are technical nature, some are strategical nature, right? I think not everything that we do is having a technical reason. Some is having just a strategic direction from an SAP point of view. To be very honest, some have a more technical reasoning on why we're doing this. But fully agree, Craig. What we will see is that SAP will make the differentiation gap probably larger and larger as time goes by. We are making it transparent to customers on what it is. But this is a reality we will face over the next years to come. Yeah. And that's why, and that's maybe an important point, in the beginning of RISE with SAP, we used the same product version for private cloud and on-prem. We used the on-prem product version in S4 Private, so in RISE, but also for S4 on-prem. Now, since 1.5 years, we said, no, we have a dedicated product version called S4HANA Cloud Private Edition as a product where the cloud-only innovations will flow in. So that was a first decision when we made its own product version for the private cloud world, where you could see that this is starting, right? In the beginning, this was not the case.
On that point, we've already seen it mentioned a number of times in this conversation so far. Is it RISE? It's now Cloud ERP Private, and you mentioned there that that the product number of RISE, and now it's a completely separate product that's private edition product version. So we've seen RISE with SAP evolve into Cloud Private Edition.
SAP Cloud ERP Private, yeah, correct.
What does that change mean in kind of practice for customers?
Yeah, so Rise with SAP has the brand we've been using for for the first 4 years, and it still hurts me that we have been letting go of it because I was part of the team launching it. But basically, Rise with SAP was the brand where we had the package of S/4HANA Private Plus. I always call them additional goodies in the back that we provide to customers that we see relevant for a full transformation. This year, SAP has decided the brand Rise with SAP should not reflect a bundle anymore of different solutions, but rather the journey of a customer from moving where they are today in ERP on-prem all the way to S4 in the cloud. And that's where we renamed our bundle now to SAP Cloud ERP Private. It's still the same concept. The customer will always buy it for S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, the main product that they're buying. But they get on top of that, they get additional products from SAP and tools like LeanIX, like Signavio, like access to the business technology platform. So it's really mostly a rebranding exercise, to be honest. And with that rebranding, we have changed the components and ingredients of the package. Customers on the old packages, and we have thousands of them, they can still renew on the old packages. They don't need to change to the new one, right? We always allow customers to renew on their old package. They can, of course, at any given point in time also say, I want to restructure my contract to the new package because the components of the new package suit me better. But the branding changes from Rise with SAP as a package to now SAP Cloud ERP Private being the name of the package. Yeah, so that's really what it is.
And to me, David, more overtly than before, maybe it was always the case and I missed it, but SAP Cloud ERP Private as a standard package includes Signavio, LeanIX, SAP Build, and so on, in a way that, to me, it wasn't the case before. May have been, I just didn't realize.
So we have introduced these new components. So Signavio and LeanIX have not been part of the previous Rise package, right? We've also increased the services footprint in the package. We realized SAP is throwing a lot of software in this package at customers' heads, and customers say, well, how should I all implement this? And how, SAP, you need to help us more with giving us so much software, but we only have so many people in our project team. So we've increased the footprint of putting SAP services into our package, helping customers, at least in the initial weeks of the contract, to get Signavio set up, to get maybe a first AI use case going. So the services footprint is increased in the new package, and we have massively increased the commercial value for customers to use the business technology platform, right? Because it was actually a statement of Christian Klein at some point. He says, I don't want to see excuses from customers why they cannot follow a clean core. You need to bring enough business technology platform value into the package that customers can follow a clean core without running out of commercial licensing to do so.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You know, when I moved from my supply chain career into my IT career, the idea that things were bundled in when you bought a software product, only to find it, you know, it got you about 5 minutes down the road, and then you needed to buy more credits.
It's like a teaser package.
So. And you've mentioned that, so I mean, I don't know the detail, but you stand behind the fact that those offerings now include a decent amount of credit, so you can actually
especially
do something
the ones. So I would differentiate in the ones where we really think every customer should be using them, like Signavio, like LeanIX, like Business Technology Platform. There, the commercial value in the package is significantly enlarged compared to previous versions, and there are still some of what you described right now, rightfully so, as some kind of tryout teasers, and when you really want to use this, need to license more. These are more the, I would say, exotic parts of the package where we have service management, business networks, and also Taulia. So some of these components still, you can get a first use case going, but if you then find, well, this is a cool use case, I want to expand it to my entire company, this is when you probably fairly quickly need to license more, but not for the tools and the platform, because this is something which we think is a table stake for customers in today's transformations.
You mentioned a number of tools and components there that are kind of included in to help achieve, or at least be on the journey to a clean core, or to create a cleaner core, shall we say. So how do those tools help customers manage their transformation journey and actually move towards a clean core? Because I think, from what I understand and from conversations I had, if you like, clean core is a journey. It's going to be an ever-evolving journey to get to a clean core.
Mm-hmm. It's also an investment, right? It's not that from one day to another you can move to a clean core. It's a lot of projects. There will also be probably costs involved for customers to move extensions that they've built to the platform, right? So that's why we include this value for the business technology platform. We want customers to move their extensions, build them, rebuild them on the platform, then run an integration scenario, also using whitelisted APIs. So to keep the core as lean as possible, right? Tools like Signavio should also help you to continuously revisit your business process within S4, right? Do you do a couple of steps that are not even required? Do you use the same business process across different entities in your company, or do you maintain 5 different business processes across different subsidiaries in your company? Where LeanIX should help you to also see, okay, what software do I have in place for what type in my architecture? Do I have an overlap using 2 different software vendors or 2 different software components for the very same thing? So helping you overall to revisit your architecture. And we know clean core for some customers, it's unrealistic to get all business modifications to 0, right? And some will never want to do that because there's competitive advantages. For us, it's just over time trying to build them in a way that they harm an upgrade project less, that your integrations over time are not always potentially breaking when you do an upgrade. We do know that also we need to look at the success of clean core depending on the size of the company, right? A smaller customer can achieve a lower amount of custom objects compared to a larger customer, but it's certainly a journey and an investment on customer side, and a mindset change on how to also have a governance process on doing a modification or doing an extension, right? We see customers that say we now established a new process where an extension needs to really be, there needs to be a business case, there needs to be to revisit it, how much maintenance will this modification or extension require, etc. So there's governance, but it's certainly a process that takes a while. I'm not sure, Ian, that if your company has started to do some work even in the on-prem world on clean core, or is that something that's still out there?
In my previous company, we did have a fair amount of custom code over the 20 years that we'd been running SAP.
Sure.
And we had to clean a lot of that up to move to S4. But for sure, that now needs additional governance. When change requests come in, the question one is, you took us through the clean core kind of methodology. There's a series of questions that need to be asked. But what I am torn a little bit with is that in a pure vanilla world, where's the differentiation? Now, I know that systems of record should just be systems of record, and you do your clever strategic stuff in other ways. Just being very, very careful what you leave standard and what you allow. That is game-changing functionality that's unique, and where you do that is clearly much more of a thought process than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and we also quite redefined this clean core definition a bit, right? Over time, when we started it, it was really black and white kind of. We now identified there are gray zones where something's not really clean or not unclean, but it's a gray area in between where we say it's still bearable. So I would encourage the listeners to check out the latest white papers and efforts of SAP making the definition a bit more detailed for clean core, because it's not that trivial, to be honest.
I'm going to go off a brief tangent here, but I was at the No AI event down in London, and I was in a session talking about public cloud, and apparently you can even ABAP in public cloud, which I thought was a contradiction. But I think that's for another podcast episode, probably.
Yeah. So the public cloud is getting more flexible as the years go by, right? We are making a lot of investments to also allow customers to extend in a clean way, also in the public cloud using ABAP cloud, etc. So that's a big effort, because also installed base customers, right? We cannot convince them to go public cloud or to take public cloud as an option if they cannot extend at all, right? That's especially the small installed base customers where sometimes private cloud's just too pricey. and public cloud's then the only commercial viable option, we need to make sure that it is viable, right? And it's
so we're trying to reduce the complexity of private cloud instances, but we're probably going to increase the complexity of public cloud.
Yeah, at least you can always talk about complexity or flexibility. Sounds a bit more.
Absolutely.
So, but I fully agree with you, right? It's a trade-off on both sides, where private cloud allows too much flexibility in terms of complexity. Public cloud may have been too restricted in the past, but we also don't want that these two product versions get too similar to each other, right? Otherwise, you end up having the very same product. You don't need two product versions anymore. So that's I think the fine line that we're walking also on the SAP side there. Yeah.
Thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UKISUG membership with those who don't know about us? The UKISUG referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Just on that clean core approach as well, we do have a previous podcast that our listeners could access where we talk about demystifying the clean core. It's not just a giant washing machine in your data center. There is a bit more to it, as you probably gathered. And just back to that point around, you've got bundled tools in the package, and you were talking about Signavio, LeanIX, SAP Build, etc. And one of the comments I've had in the past is, we get that the trial version, if you like, of Signavio in with Rise, whatever. We get in, we like it, and then all of a sudden I've got to pay more and buy more. So, in practical terms, what sort of usage tokens or entitlements are now bundled in?
So basically, the amount of additional goodies, I would call them, that you get is predefined by the amount of S/4HANA full user equivalents the customer is licensing, right? So the larger the S/4HANA footprint, so this is our term of measure, the more S/4HANA users the customer has, the more of these additional entitlements the customer will get. We have actually, and I could maybe make this available to you guys, we have a clear sheet that shows, right, if you have 1,000 full user equivalents in S/4HANA, you get 10 users for Signavio process insights, for whatever, right? It's just one thing that comes to mind. But so we are tying S/4HANA and the amount of additional components closely together on what you get. So there is an overview sheet on where we document that. The customers get that transparently in the contract negotiations. Every customer gets the same depending on how many S/4HANA users they license. But as mentioned before, where they get really a lot of value is in the tools and in the platform. Where they get more this teaser and one use case, then need to relicense, is more in these additional business applications. We have in the package service management, we have in the package Taulia, we have in the package business networks. These are the business applications where we try to see where we think they are important for a transformation, for a full transformation, but maybe not relevant to every customer. So we don't want to overwhelm the package from a cost perspective as well with too much of entitlements where customers may not always use them. So that's a bit of what my team is working at, bringing in enough value to make it meaningful, but also not overburden the costs of the price so that customers at some point cannot purchase S4 private cloud anymore because the package is so mighty that it's so blown up with additional components that customers are saying, well, I would have wanted the S4HANA vanilla version, but now you blow up the package so much that I cannot afford that anymore because you may put 3 or 4 things in there which I don't want to use.
The worry with that is then people who just want to stay on ECC and run it all the way to 2030.
See? Yeah. So that's the trade-off here, fulfilling our desire is make the package as meaningful as possible for a full transformation, and obviously throw one or the other thing in there which we think is strategic for a transformation but not out there in the market as much as we want yet. But at the same time, don't make it too commercially expensive for customers to move. So that's a bit of the fine line that's why we've decided, let's make the things that are very important to a transformation, like the tools and like the platform, more meaningful from a commercial value. And I share the sheet with you where it exactly says how much BTP are you getting, how many Signavio users, how many LeanIX users with you after the call. So you have that and can share it as part of that podcast, and then keep for the special topics at the entitlement a bit lower. Yeah.
Thank you. So, looking from a broader perspective now, if we can, I suppose, what do you both see as the more strategic arguments for moving to the cloud beyond the technical ones?
So from my point of view, it is really the trust in future functionality and innovations that are coming in the AI space, even though AI is quite a buzz. And I do think we do talk to quite some customers where they say, oh, I looked at your AI use cases, SAP. They're not throwing me off my chair yet. I think they're cool, but they're not that differentiating that I want to move to the cloud yet, just for not missing out on AI. But that was probably me with ChatGPT 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, and now suddenly I use it daily, right? You never know when that shift comes, and this is where we are investing heavily, right? Our development teams are all on delivering the new AI use cases. So we try to have a development machinery where we develop AI use cases over and over again in all lines of businesses. And I'm quite sure the point will come where these are really game changing in terms of how much more efficient customers can work in the system. And to miss out on that point in time where it really shifts, and then you are behind and you need to still implement for 10, 12 months from ECC to S4. So I guess, Ian, for your company, it would be not as problematic, because moving from S4 on-prem to S4 private is a lift and shift project where this can be done in 4 to 6 months at the max, sometimes
which
even
was always
quicker.
the thinking. We could always do that as a second step. Yeah.
For you, it's not, and you're not a worry child from my point of view as a customer for SAP, because customers who went to S4, right, they already made the move. They are on S4, they are on the strategic product version. But customers who then need to go from ECC to S4, maybe with a new implementation sometimes, because their system is not worth doing a brownfield system conversion, taking 12 to 18 months, while maybe the AI space and innovations have picked up so much that you lose track to your competition. That's something that's besides the technical, advantages of being run in the cloud, being more secure, potentially being more compliant. That's a risk that I potentially see when that's really picking up. And not saying it's 100% fully perfect. Joule is doing everything for you already today. That's not the case, realistically speaking. But we're talking about something where we are heavily investing in. And that's what I would say. But keen to hear, Ian, if you see anything that you see changing.
The transition to be cloud has been going on for years, and of course most of the other applications that I would be running would have been in the cloud anyway by now. I think it's just the history of SAP being available and being very successful on-prem for the last 20 odd years makes that wrench more difficult. But there clearly are benefits to move to the cloud. You say don't mention the technical ones, Craig, but there is releasing that technical load away from your IT team so that you can focus on more functionality and better business partnering is a value in itself, no doubt. And SAP are basically pushing us to go that way by separating the functionality. And companies that do want to make use of AI and Joule in a fully integrated way, they're going to find at some point they need to make that step. The counter to that in the strategic question is costs matter too. And the concern is what happens to inflation of your SAP cost base in a cloud-only world. And that's just something that everybody, when they do the necessary negotiations, need to work through. But that's something that I think needs to be carefully watched. But then, if you're on-prem and you're paying maintenance costs are going up anyway. So inflation is everywhere. But I would just say to all members, clearly tread carefully and find a path through that. Because once you've made that step, you can't go back. Once you've made that step from on-prem to cloud, you can't go back. So tread carefully, get clear on the inflation elements and get that tied down is what I'd say. And that is very important because we're talking 10, 20 years down the line for those kind of decisions.
So you mentioned the cost element, Ian. So, David, what kind of support, both from a technical but also commercial basis, is SAP offering to help customers make the transition?
Mm-hmm. So to start commercially, SAP this year, we have had a campaign which we call the Transformation Incentive, where we try to incentivize customers to make the move commercially, and especially customers like Ian who made the choice to move to S4 on-prem. While it was still a very good choice to make before we differentiated, this is where we realized we need to do more in terms of commercial incentives. So what does that mean? That means we are offsetting the costs of some of the work to move their S4 on-prem to the private cloud in terms of value that they get back, subscription fee that they get deducted. So this is what we do in terms of commercials. We do the same for ECC on-prem customers. We offer a commercial incentive there, what we call a transformation incentive. We also offer customers credits when they move from an old legacy solution to a replacement public cloud solution, like from old travel management, for example, to Concur, right? So we are offsetting the costs of the dual maintenance and cloud subscription running at the same time. So we're trying to offset the credits there. So commercially, we are running quite some incentives that hopefully will continue next year as well under this transformation incentive program. So that's the commercial side of the house. And then we have, from a technical point of view, especially our team that we call Customer Evolution Team that helps customers, and you probably know Uwe Grigoleit, right? That's with Uwe's team. I've been working with him very closely over the years. They have something they call Customer Evolution Kit. This is helping customers exactly how to use the tools, what to consider, when should they do a new implementation, when should they do a system conversion, what are the trade-offs to consider, how to get started. So we are trying to give a lot of guidance from that team into customers from a technical point of view, how to run the readiness check together with them. So they have the Customer Evolution Kit, which is a free service by SAP where we really come to the customer and look at their specific situation, run the readiness check with them, do the first steps of planning with them, put our recommendation into place, how we should do that technically to move to S4. So this is a bit of this technical and commercial things we're doing around that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, did a podcast at the beginning of this year with Uwe around the Customer Evolution Program. From what you were saying there, perhaps I need to do an updated one at the beginning of next year to find out what's new there.
Yeah, he's promoting this evolution kit a lot, so I think he will have a lot to say on what they're doing. I mean, it's closest to his heart to move installed base customers along to S4, right? To any version of S4, preferably the cloud version. But first of all, his main concern is getting customers off the old ERP, so that's what he's looking after. Yeah.
Thank you. And anything from you to add on that, Ian, that you picked up through the involvement in the charter?
No, I do think that, well, David has said it. SAP know that there's still many, the reports vary as to how many have bought the S4 licensing and how many haven't, but there's still a significant chunk still to go. And, but, it's clear from what David said and what you read, there is support there. There's stick and carrot. Stick and carrot.
That is true. Yeah, it's always a bit of a mix.
But I think the direction's clear. But anything that can be done, and as you said, anything can be done to just help those that have to make that step. With 20-year investments in some of these systems is going to be really, really helpful. But the direction's clear.
Thank you. And thank you both. So just as we come to a close now, for anybody wanting to learn more about the topics we've discussed, and especially kind of the deadlines and everything that's available out there, David, where should they go?
So we have on SAP.com, we have a section also for the user groups where we put a lot of assets for availability of our customers about transformation journeys, and Business Suite ebook as well on the digital library from SAP. So check out SAP.com for user group material. We can also make available from our transformation charter, where we put all of the assets that we've used across the charter on a SharePoint setup, which we make available to all members also as part of the SUGA network. So I'm happy to provide this as well. What I would also highlight is there is something where SAP is investing now a lot of time and effort into, which we call the RISE moment, happening on November 20th, where we are highlighting of the new 2025 release, the innovation highlights in this release that are for S4HANA Cloud Private Edition. What's new, what's differentiating to on-prem. It's a bit of a show and tell to really get a pulse check on, okay, is SAP investing where it's interesting for me, and put that on your calendars. I think that could be of interest. November 20th, called Rise Moment.
And will that be recorded and stored for access post?
Yeah, so it will. It's a live session. I believe it's 90 minutes, but it will then also be recorded and made available. SAP is aiming for a high attendance live, because there's also a Q&A and chat available, where a lot of resources from our teams are doing chat support. So it's mainly highlighting the new functionalities that came out in the 2025 S4HANA Cloud Private Edition release, right? So that's the main goal. So not so much on the operational model or security, but more on the functionality value point of side of the S4HANA Cloud Private Edition.
Okay, brilliant. I know we promoted that to our members. I'm just thinking that by the time we can get this episode out, it might be beyond that date. So people will be able to access it after.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And Craig, some of the resources, those which David agrees are publicly available, can we publish those via our website as well? Is that something we can look to do?
Yes, indeed. I think we're just checking our Sugen page on the website at the moment, because we publish all of the Sugen digests on the website and the resources. But we'll certainly be sharing more of that stuff on our website. I think we did a couple of articles and blogs around the 2025 deadlines. I think we did them earlier this year. So again, we'll dust them off and get them out to people just as a reminder to make sure that everybody's aware of the looming deadlines. Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you. David, Ian, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. I really do feel you've shared so much information and value for our listeners. So thank you both very much for joining me today. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, the only constant is change.